My journey began in the shadow of a broken home. My father walked away from my mother when I was 3 years old. Life was difficult for my mum, who tried her best to provide for me as a single mother. I am Martha, and this is my story of how betrayal altered the path of my life forever. I was quite young when I met John, who had everything that I wanted in a partner. He possessed a warmth that could charm anyone, and a caring nature that made every problem seem manageable. But I was unaware that while I was dreaming about my bright future, a storm was brewing for me. Jenny, my sister-in-law, seemed hell-bent on tearing down everything I held dear. Jenny was also disrespectful and acted like she was better than me, just because I came from a humble background. She married a man named Mark, who was much older than her, only for his money, and soon she wanted to leave him. Jenny was always disrespectful to her family, including her parents and her brother. I always saw her bullying her mother for her dementia, talking behind her father's back for not letting her party all night, and fighting with her brother whenever she was jealous of him. John told me that she was really spoiled by their dad, who gave her whatever she wanted ever since she was a kid. He treated her like a princess, which could have been adorable, but it became the reason why she never really grew up. It was as if Jenny had everything that I wished for. I must admit, I always dreamed of having a lovely family. Growing up in a single-parent household without any siblings was tough. I longed for the warmth of a family and the comfort of knowing that there would always be someone there for me. It was the kind of family I had hoped to build with John, one filled with love, laughter, and support. Jenny was not happy that John and I were getting married. On the day that was meant to be the happiest of my life, I was filled with joy. I stood there, adorned in my wedding gown, ready to exchange vows with the love of my life. But little did I know that Jenny, my sister-in-law, was plotting to cast a dark cloud over our celebration. While everyone was cheering when we exchanged our vows, she was there telling people about the separation of my parents. And everyone had their eyes on me, questioning, "Where is the bride's father?" Aunt Mary, a family friend, leaned over and whispered to her husband, "Did you hear what Jenny's saying about Martha's parents?" Her husband nodded, his brow furrowing. It's a shame that she's trying to ruin this beautiful moment. But Jenny was not going to stop. When she realized that people were criticizing her for being rude about my mother, she decided to attack me. She picked up the glass of champagne and went to her cousins.
This slut is gonna ruin my brother's life. She's been with multiple men, and just look at her. Now she's smiling like an angel. What a two-timing witch.
She was speaking loudly enough for me to hear. My heart shattered at her cruel words. On what should have been the happiest day of my life, Jenny had managed to turn it into a nightmare. The joy and excitement I had felt were replaced by heartbreak, and my big day was utterly ruined by her jealousy. I was so down because many people thought my mother had an affair, so my father left her. Moreover, they thought that I had trapped John to marry me because he was rich, while I barely made ends meet. But John was there to lift me up.
Martha, don't let her words get to you. Come dance with me.
I looked into his loving eyes, my tears threatening to spill over, and took his hand. "Thank you, John. I needed this." We joined the dance floor, surrounded by the cheerful chatter and laughter of our guests. As we swayed together, John whispered comforting words.
You are the love of my life, Martha. What she says doesn't matter. We'll get through this together.
I love you, John.
I love you too, darling.
John's actions indirectly signaled to Jenny that he was on my side, but she didn't stop there. After my wedding day, we hosted a family dinner at our new home. I had hoped for a fresh start, a chance to put Jenny's hurtful actions behind us. But as the family gathered around the dinner table, it became apparent that Jenny wasn't finished with her campaign of cruelty. With her usual arrogance, she couldn't resist one more jab at me.
You know, it's just so hard for me to sit down and dine with someone from a single-parent household.
Her words cut through the room like a sharp knife, and an uncomfortable silence fell over the table. I felt a lump in my throat. My appetite vanished as I struggled to hold back tears. John shot Jenny a stern look.
Jenny, that's enough. This is our home, and Martha is my wife. We won't tolerate any disrespect here.
Jenny's hurtful comment felt like a dagger through my heart. but I tried my best to maintain my composure. I forced a weak smile and looked at John, who was behaving like a gentleman. However, my sister-in-law seemed offended and upset. She immediately got up, left the table, and went straight to her room. Her husband excused himself and ran after her, as if she was the victim here. After that, everyone was trying to act normal. The atmosphere was still tense. I was so stressed due to Jenny's behavior that I accidentally dropped some soup on my dress. I excused myself and went to the bathroom. As I passed by Jenny's room, I couldn't help but overhear a heated argument coming from within.
Mark, I can't believe you're being so stingy with the money. We should be enjoying the finer things in life. I want a trip more luxurious than John and Martha could have.
Jenny, we need to be responsible with our finances. I can't keep spending recklessly.
The tension in their voices was palpable, but I couldn't help but pause for a moment, curious about what else I might overhear.
And don't you ever get me started on our intimacy, Mark. I'm just not satisfied anymore.
I'm trying, Jenny. We're just at different stages in our lives.
So why don't you satisfy me with your money?
The intimate details of their argument left me feeling uncomfortable, and I continued on my way to the bathroom, silently hoping that the turbulence in their marriage wouldn't spill over into our family gathering. Moments later, John came to check on me. I told him about what I heard. John let out a chuckle, surprising me.
Well, that's not really news. Jenny's always been a bit like that. She's upset about something, and then she takes it out on others. Don't let it get to you too much.
I felt a sense of relief wash over me, grateful that my better half was standing by my side. It was reassuring that he wasn't taking Jenny's harsh words too seriously either. John leaned back on the bed, his gaze fixed on the ceiling.
You know, Jenny's jealousy goes way back. She wanted to kill me when we were kids, because she couldn't stand me getting all the attention from our parents. I can't help but chuckle at the absurdity of the situation.
Seriously?
Yeah, I remember one time she tried to push me off the swing when we were at the park. Mom and Dad had to intervene before things got out of hand. However, he jumped up suddenly. Martha, have you packed our bags for our honeymoon tomorrow?
I blinked a bit, surprised by his sudden urgency, and then couldn't help but laugh at his eagerness. Not yet, but I can't wait to start packing. It's going to be an incredible trip. John quickly got out of bed and enveloped me in a warm hug.
It's going to be a journey of a lifetime, and I'm so thrilled to share it with you.
The next day, unfortunately, was more horrible than the last one. At the breakfast table, Jenny asked John to let her come with us on our honeymoon trip. John was surprised to hear that, but he kept calm.
It is supposed to stay between me and my wife. You have ruined our wedding. At least stay away from us during our honeymoon.
Jenny gave me a dreadful gaze.
Okay, John, go and enjoy it with your wife. Soon she's going to ditch you like her mommy did her dad.
I was shocked by her remarks. Even her loving husband, Mark, lowered his gaze due to embarrassment. But apparently, Jenny knew nothing about politeness. I was going to say something, but then I stopped myself. I realized I was better than to engage with her, so I got up and left. John followed me, and the rest of the family stayed quiet in discomfort. We left for our honeymoon with hearts full of hope and excitement. For the next 2 weeks, we swam in crystal-clear waters, explored lush jungles, and shared intimate moments under the starry night sky. It was a dream come true for me. For a short time, life was perfect. There was no Jenny to ruin our joy. But when we returned home, I couldn't have anticipated the storm that awaited me. Jenny had spread new rumors during our absence, accusing me of having a boyfriend before John and being a drug addict. She even had so-called proof. Apparently, she had brought home a man who claimed to be my ex and had financially supported me. Of course, I was shocked, to say the least. There was no such ex in my life. Jenny's mean lies felt like a really heavy load on my heart. It was like my happy world from our honeymoon turned all dark because of her. She kept on talking behind my back, and it made me feel like I was going crazy. I couldn't sleep. I was always anxious. My mind was all messed up, and I couldn't control my feelings anymore. Things got so bad that I had to go to the hospital because I was really, really stressed. I just couldn't handle all the lies and rumors anymore. It was so embarrassing and sad to be in the hospital bed, feeling like everything in my life was falling apart. And what made it even worse was that I could tell that John, the person I loved so much, was starting to doubt me. It felt like the love we had was slipping away because of all the bad things she said. Jenny didn't stop with her hurtful stories. She even went as far as telling everyone that I had teamed up with my cousin to steal money from John, and that I'll eventually leave him. Eventually, I reached my breaking point. After getting out of the hospital, I knew I couldn't take it anymore. I decided it was time to stand up for myself and fight back against the lies and rumors that had been tearing my life apart. The most stressful thing for me was John's changes. He began to treat me differently. He started drinking and spending nights outside. Whenever he came back home, he got into his study room and spent the whole night there. On Sundays, he went out with his friends. He was ignoring me, saying that he needed time to process everything. He didn't explicitly say it, but I know part of him had already believed that Jenny's lies were true. One Saturday, I decided to talk to John.
As the front door finally creaked open, I steeled myself and approached him in the living room.
His disheveled appearance, the scent of alcohol clinging to him, and the distant look in his eyes were all too evident. "John, we need to talk," I implored, my voice trembling with a mix of frustration and desperation.
He met my gaze briefly before averting his eyes, a defensive wall already rising between us. "What is there to talk about?"
He snapped, his voice laced with bitterness. Tears welled up in my eyes as I pleaded. "You've changed, John. You're pushing me away, believing those terrible things Jenny said about me. I've never betrayed you, and I'm not a gold digger."
His voice grew colder, more accusatory. "How can I trust you after everything I've heard?"
"Because, John, I love you. I've been nothing but faithful to you. I need you to believe in us."
He paused, a flicker of doubt crossing his face before he turned and retreated to his study room, slamming the door shut.
My heart sank, knowing that this battle was far from over, and I was left with the crushing weight of misunderstanding and mistrust. Then I decided it was time to confront Jenny. I couldn't let her continue making my life miserable without understanding why she was doing it. So I mustered up the courage and went to her house, determined to get some answers. When I arrived at Jenny's place, Mark opened the door for me. I found myself standing nervously in their living room, my heart pounding. Jenny was in the bathroom, but her phone lay innocently on the bed, beckoning me with its unlocked screen. A tiny voice in my head urged caution, but curiosity got the better of me. As soon as Mark went into the kitchen to get me some water, I opened the gallery on her phone, not really knowing what to expect. And there, in front of my eyes, were private photos that told a story I hadn't anticipated. Jenny, the woman who had been tormenting me, was caught in compromising photos with none other than her husband's young, muscular secretary. Suddenly, everything clicked into place. Jenny's hatred for me wasn't about me at all. It was about her own crumbling marriage. She envied John's looks and the admiration our relationship received, and she wanted to escape her older husband, Mark. Armed with this knowledge, I couldn't let Jenny continue to manipulate and torment me. It was time to expose her for who she truly was. I quickly took a screenshot on her phone, sent it to myself, and deleted it from her phone. Then I put her phone back in its place. Moments later, I excused myself and went home, leaving a confused Mark with a cup of water in his hands. So, I gathered my evidence and prepared for a showdown. Mark deserved to know the truth about his unfaithful wife. That weekend, I hosted a small gathering with all of our friends and family. Of course, Jenny and Mark were invited. In the middle of the meal, I checked my phone and pretended to be shocked. Then, I looked at Jenny and asked her, "Jenny, what did you just send me?" Everyone turned their attention to me. I turned my screen to them, revealing the photos for everyone to see. Jenny's face turned ashen as she finally understood what was happening. "Jenny, care to explain these photos? Did you just accidentally airdrop these photos to me?"
Wait, what? I can explain. It's not what it looks like.
She turned to Mark and started to whimper.
Mark, please listen. I don't know what it's there.
Jenny, how could you do this to me? With my own secretary?
It was a mistake, a terrible mistake. I didn't mean for it to happen.
Now Mark was red with anger. He called his secretary on the phone to make everything clear. The whole family was there to witness, but no one dared to say anything. To my surprise, it wasn't long before the truth spilled out.
I had no choice. She threatened to ruin my career if I didn't comply. It's all true. She had me trapped, but I can't lie anymore.
Mark's anger simmered, and he decided that he'd had enough of the lies and betrayal.
That's it, Jenny. I want a divorce. I can't be with someone who had stooped so low.
Mark immediately left the family gathering. One by one, people began to leave too, while Jenny started going hysterical. She begged for everyone's forgiveness, and when she saw that nobody was buying her lies anymore, she turned to me. She suddenly charged at me, trying to grab me by my hair while screaming, "You freaky witch! You planned this. You did this to me." Of course, John didn't wait 1 second to get her away from me. It was really hectic, but thanks to him, I was safe. He had to physically remove her from our home, and eventually call the police on her. The aftermath was ugly. The secretary was no longer under Jenny's control, and confirmed the truth with some call recordings in which she blackmailed him. Everything came together and sealed Jenny's fate. Now it was John's turn to see her true colors. He finally left her a voice message.
I can't have a sister who is such a cheater and a liar. I am cutting all my ties with you. Goodbye.
He hugged me right there, and both of us were in tears. He held my hand and apologized to me. As the dust settled, I couldn't help but feel a strange sense of peace. In the end, it wasn't just me who benefited from the truth coming to light. It was Lark who can now move on from a toxic marriage. And it was John and his family who could finally see Jenny for who she really was.